The groom bailed right before the wedding, so I was forced to marry his younger brother. I could hear his impatient voice drifting in from the hallway. Call it off. Why the hell should I marry someone my brother didn't want? Just take a look first, William urged. Oliver is known throughout the alliance as a stunner. Mason scoffed. I don't care if he looks like an angel. It's not like I'm shallow enough to just care about looks. I nodded to myself and stood up, ready to leave. The moment I opened the door, I locked eyes with Mason, whose eyes went wide. He cleared his throat, the tips of his ears turning pink. You know what? We shouldn't disobey our parents. I'll do it. Chapter 1. On the big day, Elijah got cold feet and ran. His parents decided his younger brother, Mason, would have to take his place. Mason's roar echoed from outside the door. Why should I pick up my brother's sloppy seconds? Can he not find anyone else? Is he desperate to stick to our family? No way. If I do this, I'm just standing in for Elijah. He's not my wife. If you don't like it, send him away. I want to cancel the engagement. I heard every word clearly from inside the room. Honestly, I could understand where he was coming from. In this ABO world, everyone is ruled by pheromones. My compatibility with both brothers was a staggering 99%, so the alliance mandated the marriage. They claimed it was the kind of number that guaranteed love at first sight and genetically superior children. But Elijah didn't buy into that. He didn't want the alliance controlling his life. So he ran off for some online fling he'd never even met. And so, the burden of this engagement fell squarely on Mason. Don't be so impulsive. At least look at him first, will you? William tried to reason with him. Oliver is famous in the alliance for his looks. Do you have any idea how many people were watching when his pheromone test results came out? I worked hard to secure this son-in-law, so don't be ungrateful. Hearing this, Mason was so mad he actually reached out and yanked on William's beard. I don't care how you got him. Cancel it. I don't care if he's a god descended from heaven. What century is this? Talking about pheromones like that. I refuse to be shackled by these archaic ideas. Give it up. I will never marry him. Mason had a loud voice, and he showed no mercy on the beard. William snatched his facial hair back and kicked him. Fine. Just consider it standing in for your brother then. Mason stumbled from the kick, but his mom caught him just in time. Old man, don't you regret this? I'm telling you one more time, I'm doing this for Elijah. That means he's my sister-in-law. I want nothing to do with him. That attitude made William want to kick him again, but Barbara stopped him. If he doesn't want to, don't force him. We picked Oliver for your eldest anyway. Why force Mason? Mom's the best. I promise I'll find you a great daughter-in-law later and give you a bunch of grandkids to spoil. As for the old man, he doesn't get to hold a single one. Mason hid behind Barbara, provoking his dad. I couldn't listen to any more of this. According to alliance regulations, if the assigned couple refuses to marry within a month, the match can be annulled. Since he was unwilling, I didn't want to force it. I decided to go out there and clear things up. As soon as I opened the door, I was met with a pair of bright, peach blossom eyes. He glanced over casually, but when his gaze landed on my face, he froze. Dad, is this the wife you found for me? He looked excited. His eyes were shining so intensely it was almost scary. No. William huffed, clearly annoyed. Didn't you say you didn't want to get married? Didn't want to be shackled by feudalistic thinking? I certainly can't make decisions for you. Hearing that, the surprise on Mason's face vanished instantly. He wilted like a dying plant. He looked at William with puppy dog eyes, his expression practically screaming. Dad, you're useless. How could you fail to secure such a perfect wife? William was fuming. You ungrateful brats have no taste. You think I don't know what you like? I specifically picked him for your brother, and that idiot ran away without even looking. He's going to regret this. William got angrier as he spoke. What a waste of my efforts. While William complained, Mason kept stealing glances at me. Whenever I looked back, he'd quickly turn his head away, leaving only the tips of his burning red ears visible. A moment later, his gaze would sneak back. When he heard that I was the one chosen for his brother, the one his brother ran away from, his eyes suddenly lit up. The wife chosen for my brother? And he ran away. So that means, I don't know what went through his head, but Mason's face turned beet red. He looked away as if my gaze physically burned him. William and Barbara noticed their son's weird behavior, the flushing cheeks, the watery eyes. What's wrong with you? Did your rut start early? Mason glared at him. Dad, can you watch my image, please? I ignored their little exchange and prepared to excuse myself. Initially, there were several alphas with an 80% compatibility match. But the brothers' scores were just too high. Plus, there was that online relationship with Elijah. I never expected Elijah would run away just to escape the Alliance's control without even telling me. Since that was the case, there was no point in dragging this out. I politely suggested to William that we dissolve the engagement. Before William could get a word in, Mason, who had been acting as background scenery, suddenly panicked. My brother not getting married is his problem. But I'm still here. Our compatibility is 99% too. Realizing he sounded too desperate, and seeing everyone staring at him, Mason blushed. He coughed lightly and tried to play it cool. No, I mean, it's not that I particularly want to marry you. But the Alliance has rules, and you're the daughter-in-law my dad chose. I'm just being filial, right? Filial piety. I just don't want mom and dad to worry. Mason seemed to think he'd found the perfect excuse. His eyes sparkled with confidence. It's an old tradition for the younger brother to step in. I've always been a good son. I listen to dad. I never disobey. You brat. Don't curse your brother. Mason was getting smug, so William kicked him again. This time Mason was smarter. He dodged quickly, shouting as he ran. Dad, Elijah ran away. Just pretend you never had him. Leave the inheritance to me. Once I'm married, Oliver and I will take care of you together. William was so mad he took off his shoe and threw it at him. Mason dodged it easily. Dad, when picking a daughter-in-law, you can't just look at them, you have to look at your own son. My brother has no sense of responsibility, he ran away. What Omega would want to marry him? Unlike me, I'm filial and obedient. Besides, Oliver is way too good for him. Elijah doesn't deserve him. I can take the bullet for him. I'll do it willingly. William threw the other shoe. Now you're bad-mouthing your brother too. The sound of the father and son chasing each other echoed through the courtyard. Barbara stood there, looking awkward. Her son, who had just been railing against arranged marriages and vowing to rebel, did a complete 180 the moment he saw Oliver. It was embarrassing. Oliver, maybe you should consider it? My youngest isn't bad. He's a bit childish and has a quick temper, but he's stubborn in a good way. Once he likes someone, he treats them well. He's devoted and loyal. Listening to her, an idea formed in my mind. Devotion and loyalty are rare traits in an alpha. In this ABO world, most alphas are promiscuous, often having one alpha for many omegas. Some ignore their partners during heat cycles or even give them away. And once an omega is marked, they basically hand their life over. If I have to marry, I might as well pick someone handsome but simple-minded. Easier to control. I glanced at the father and son, who were running closer, Mason pretending not to care but clearly eavesdropping. I found it kind of funny. I remembered the Alliance rule, 1 month. I treat this month as a probation period. As for my original fiancé Elijah, Mason's brother, I really want to see the look on his face when he finds out the truth. Chapter 2. The moment I nodded, Mason let out a surprised cheer. William grumbled. Who was the one just saying he was only standing in for his brother? Mason immediately threw his arm around William's shoulder, acting like they were best buds. My brother? He deserves someone better. He doesn't deserve the best, which is Oliver. With that, he took a huge leap to my side, grabbed my hand, and dragged me straight into the room, shutting his parents out. Once we were inside, Mason didn't let go of my hand. Instead, he started acting shy. Standing half a head taller than me, he looked down, studying me intently. I just let him look. Suddenly, the room filled with the scent of milk candy. It was rich and sweet. Just as I was about to look for the source of the smell, Mason abruptly dropped my hand and turned his head away in embarrassment. This reminded me of something. It often felt like two different people were using the account I was online dating. The Alliance's online game is incredibly advanced. You can use your real face or design an avatar, making it feel like a parallel world. As long as you grant permission, chatting feels just like being face-to-face. Sometimes I would smell that same milk candy scent. Whenever I caught that scent, the person behind the avatar would get incredibly nervous. He acted like a kid stealing cookies peeking at the adult, terrified of being caught but too scared to admit it. In those moments, I loved teasing him. Whether it was physical contact while running dungeons or holding hands to turn in quests, he always seemed so tense. The game character's face would flush, and his ears would turn bright red. Yet he'd still talk tough. You're an Omega. Don't get so close to an Alpha. It's dangerous. Oh, I'd follow his gaze, smiling right at him. And how exactly are you going to be dangerous to me? He wouldn't answer, just staring into my eyes while the scent of milk candy grew stronger. It always made me want to laugh. His face would turn even redder. Don't laugh. Afraid I'd push him too far, I stopped teasing him and focused on the dungeon. Later on, I smelled that milk candy scent frequently. That was when he started trash-talking himself on the account. Alphas are no good. You should stay away from them. I rested my chin in my hand, watching him. Should I stay away from you too? He stayed silent, his expression conflicted, as if he were making a difficult decision. Yes, I'm no good either. You should stay away from me in the future. In private, I smoke and drink. I go through omegas one after another, changing partners every 3 days. I dump people without a second thought. My health is shot. I can't give you happiness. I'm irresponsible, and I have no backbone. You can't trust your life to a guy like me. He got more and more worked up, as if he were talking about a stranger. When he noticed the weird look I was giving him, he scratched his head, blushing with a guilty conscience. He turned away and coughed dryly. Don't look at me like that. I'll introduce you to a good alpha some other time. He's gentle, kind, single-minded, and loyal. He also has an 8-pack and keeps himself clean. My look went from weird to skeptical. Finally, I couldn't help but ask, are you telling me to cheat? His face exploded into a bright red blush, and he started coughing violently as if he choked on air. His eyes were watery, looking a little aggrieved. How can online dating be considered cheating? The one who isn't loved is the third wheel. I was so shocked by his twisted logic that I ignored him for days. I didn't speak to him again until the account returned to normal, back to the gentle, considerate person I first met, who looked at me without any weirdness. Later, I picked up an apprentice in the game. Long after, I learned that it was Mason. He had bought and tried tons of accounts just to get close to me. I had assumed the system assigned him to me automatically. This apprentice was odd. He seemed goofy, but he was clingy and incredibly territorial. When Elijah, the main account, was around, the apprentice would be passive-aggressive. This mob is a bunny rabbit. It's so cute. How can Big Brother bear to kill it? That's so cruel. When Elijah wasn't around, he turned on everyone else. Look how stupid they are. They can't even kill a rabbit. So useless. You can't date someone like that. Me. Once, a teammate simply added me as a friend, and the apprentice immediately stabbed him to death. As I stared at the fallen character, I glared at him. The apprentice immediately acted like the victim. He wanted to be a homewrecker. Shameless. Master clearly has a CP, couple pairing, and he still wants to be Master's side piece. Someone is seducing you. Why doesn't Big Brother do anything about it? Doesn't he know how to act like a real boyfriend? If he can't do the job, he should step aside. As he said this, the thick, sweet scent of milk candy radiated from him. Chapter 3. Oliver. You're not still thinking about my brother, are you? I snapped back to reality. Mason was gingerly tugging at the hem of my shirt, looking at me with big, aggrieved eyes. You can't. He already ran away. Besides, he's irresponsible and has no backbone. In private, he smokes and drinks. I listened quietly as he regurgitated the same lines from the game. It was actually kind of funny. The Smith family was famous in the Alliance for their impeccable reputation. Omegas who married into the Smith family were known to be happy because the Smiths didn't engage in the usual sordid ABO drama. So, I knew what Mason was saying was pure fiction. Plus, I had interacted with his brother. I could tell Elijah had a good temperament. Can't you choose me? Mason's voice was muffled, almost pleading. His beautiful peach blossom eyes were fixed on me, full of anticipation. I had to admit, both brothers were incredibly handsome. Unlike Omegas, who were sequestered in Alliance schools until adulthood and rarely saw outsiders, Alphas lived in the public eye from a young age. Every major family compared them, and the Smith brothers were the cream of the crop. Looking at his striking features, his moist eyes, and the slight redness at the corners of his eyes, I suddenly felt the urge to tease him. I leaned in slowly and asked with mock seriousness, "Choose you? Do you even know what you're supposed to do on your wedding night?" Mason froze. His face instantly turned a deep crimson. He lowered his head, avoiding my gaze. Despite being an alpha who was half a head taller and much stronger than me, he was currently flustered as a puppy. Mason's Adam's apple bobbed. All I could see were the tips of his ears, burning red. I kept teasing him. "Have you ever tried it?" T tried. Tried what? I raised an eyebrow. I couldn't tell if he was playing innocent or if he really was that clueless. But his clear, panicked eyes didn't look like they were lying. Satisfied, I said, "Go take a shower." Mason obeyed immediately, grabbing his clothes and practically sprinting to the bathroom, face still flaming. At the door, he seemed to remember something. He stammered. So, will you take responsibility for me? No. I mean, you're my wife now, right? You're not allowed to think about my brother anymore. I smiled but didn't answer, instead grabbing a pillow and throwing it at him. Just go wash up. I couldn't promise him anything. After all, there was still the 1-month probation period. As for our current relationship, as long as there was no marking, who could really say who was taking advantage of whom? Even if I hired a male model, no amount of money could get me someone on the level of the Smith brothers. They were S-class alphas, top-tier mental strength, top-tier everything. While I waited, the scent of milk candy drifted from the bathroom. I couldn't tell if it was Mason's pheromones or just his body wash. The sweet smell didn't seem like an alpha at all. It was more like a pampered, soft omega. But thinking about his background, an old, established family, a father who was a general, a brother in the Alliance Military Academy, it made sense. He probably never had to strive for anything. Having sweet pheromones actually seemed fitting. Suddenly, the optical computer on the desk lit up. I glanced at it casually, but my gaze froze. It was a chat log between Mason and Elijah, updating in real time. I checked the bathroom, no movement, so I turned my attention back to the screen. Elijah, how's it going at home? Did that Omega leave yet? Mason, not yet, bro. You were so right to run. I saw him today. That Oliver is just average. Seriously, totally plain. He won't even initiate any intimacy with me. He's way too aloof. You definitely couldn't handle him. Don't come back for a while and don't contact mom and dad. If you need anything, tell me. I support your pursuit of true love. Running away was the right call. Absolute genius. Bro, I've got your back. Together against arranged marriages. Down with feudal thinking. As he typed, Mason transferred money to his brother. The number of zeros at the end was enough for Elijah to run to the ends of the earth. Elijah, completely clueless, was touched. Elijah, good brother, you're suffering for me. Elijah, try to talk some sense into mom and dad. Elijah, when I find your sister-in-law, I'll definitely bring him back. Elijah, I'll let mom and dad see my true love. I bet he's 1,000 times better than that Omega they picked out. Mason showed zero guilt. Mason, hey, what are brothers for? We're blood. Don't worry. I'll hold the fort. Mason, just focus on finding your love out there. The conversation seemed to end there. There was a pause. On the other end, Elijah kept typing and deleting, clearly hesitating over something. From the bathroom, I heard the sound of water and Mason happily humming a tune. He was clearly in a great mood. Elijah didn't hesitate for long. Another message popped up. Elijah, I don't know why, but your sister-in-law blocked me 2 hours ago. Elijah, do you think he heard about the marriage and got mad? Elijah, it's my fault. I didn't explain it to him beforehand. How should I apologize? Reading that sentence, I pulled out my phone. The familiar avatar in my memory matched Elijah's exactly. And right now, it was sitting comfortably in my block list. Chapter 4. Mason pranced out of the bathroom, his eyes sparkling with a mix of shyness and anticipation. He looked just like a freshly baked dessert, carefully decorated and waiting eagerly to be devoured. I raised an eyebrow, stood up, and spun around slowly before asking him with feigned confusion, So, I'm just average? Mason froze. What? I narrowed my eyes and asked again. Am I average? Finally clicked. Mason belatedly glanced at the optical computer on the desk. He looked guilty, but he still tried to act tough. Yeah. Well, pretty average. I guess I'm the only one willing to. I didn't let him finish. I sneered and turned to leave. When it comes to relationships, I value directness and honesty. I hate people who beat around the bush or hide things like how Elijah ghosted me without a word. Mason playing hard to get could be cute in small doses, but right now, with just the two of us here, I wasn't going to indulge him if he was going to talk like that. I hadn't taken 2 steps when I heard a loud thud behind me, and suddenly my legs were wrapped in a tight hug. Don't go. Mason's voice was frantic and trembling. I'm not an idiot when it comes to feelings. After 3 months of interacting online, did these brothers really think I didn't know? I had figured out ages ago that Mason liked me. I turned back with a cold expression, looking down at Mason kneeling on the floor. He looked beautiful and fragile, his watery peach blossom eyes gazing up at me like a puppy afraid of being abandoned. My heart softened a bit. Mason seemed shocked by his own desperate reaction. He stared at me blankly before his expression turned aggrieved. You chose my brother so many times. I was just scared. Scared of what? I asked patiently. Mason looked at me, hesitating as if the words were hard to get out. A blush spread across his cheeks. His skin was so pale that when he got shy, he turned a shade of pink that made him look incredibly pinchable. I'm just scared that when Elijah comes back, you won't want me anymore. I zoned out for a second, listening to his resentful tone. He sounded like a dramatic character in a soap opera, but I had never been needed so explicitly by anyone before. I had never seen someone so insecure just because of me. My heart skipped a beat. I crouched down to eye level with him, moved in close, and pinched his chin. My voice naturally took on a coaxing tone. If you want me to choose you, what should you say? My lips were inches from his as I spoke, as if I were using myself as bait to lure the truth out of him. Mason didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on my lips, a dazed, confused look in his beautiful eyes. I squeezed his chin again. Say it. What is your truth? Mason pursed his lips. I really hate being forced to do anything. But if it's you, I submit willingly. I still kicked Mason out of the room that night. I felt like this puppy still needed a little more training. I took a few days off for marriage leave, unaware that the Alliance School had already exploded with gossip. Ever since my 99% compatibility match with the Smith brothers was announced, plenty of Omegas had been green with envy. They only dared to make sour comments behind my back while acting respectful to my face. But on the wedding day, news broke that the eldest Smith son had run away, and even the second son looked at me with disgust, acting like he wanted to broom me out the door. Just like that, I became the school laughingstock. At first, they only whispered in the shadows. But since I hadn't shown up for class, they got brazen. Thought Oliver was going to hit the jackpot, but look at him now. How embarrassing. What's the use of a good match? They have power and influence. They've seen every type of Omega. He's always acting so cold and pretentious, thinking the whole world loves him. Well, look at him now. He threw himself at them, and nobody wants him. 3 days and no show? He probably got used and kicked out. Too ashamed to show his face. If you ask me, looking good is useless for an Omega. You need to be gentle and obedient and take care of your alpha, so they don't stray. Oliver looks like a total vixen. You can tell he's not decent. James got more and more smug as he spoke, spouting his fabricated rumors with reckless abandon. He didn't notice that the classmates originally gathered around him had all taken a simultaneous step back, drawing a clear line between him and themselves. The air went silent for a moment, leaving only the sound of James's endless yapping. When he finally realized something was off, he turned around and saw me standing there, arms crossed, smiling at him. Are you done? James didn't answer. He stared at me wide-eyed, gulped, and stood up from his seat. The next second, my fist smashed into his face. Chapter 5. While Mason was playing the obedient son at home, I was getting into a fistfight at school. Dad, hurry up and get the papers. I'm taking my wife to register our marriage, Mason urged. William didn't say a word. He gestured for Mason to pour him a cup of tea. Only after his son eagerly served the tea, a rare occurrence, did he leisurely glance at Mason. The application still has Oliver's and your brother's names on it. They have to be present in person to change it. Mason frowned. You're his dad. Can't you just pull some strings? We didn't need to be there in person when the application was filed. Did we? I don't care. You need to fix this for me. His tone was firm. That's my wife we're talking about. Why is his name on a form with my brother? Dad, you're playing favorites. William, getting a headache from the noise, snapped back. It's not like I didn't ask you. You were the one who said you didn't want him. That's why I registered your brother. And now you're blaming me? He waved his hand impatiently. I can't fix it. Just wait for your brother to come back and handle it. Since he doesn't want to get married anyway, just tell him you approve, call him back, and be done with it. Mason hesitated, swallowing his bitterness. He couldn't exactly tell his father that he'd been working on stealing his brother's fiancée for 3 months. Having finally gotten this opportunity, there was no way he was letting his brother come back. Just as he was agonizing over this, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Elijah. Mason, I found your sister-in-law's school. I'm nearby right now. I want to buy a bouquet and wait for him to get out of class. Should I get red roses or pink roses? Which is better? What should I say when we meet for the first time? I'm a little nervous. My heart is racing. Mason stared at the messages, panic rising in his chest. Bro, both those colors are too basic. They don't show enough sincerity, he replied. Why not buy yellow ones? They express apology and can clear up misunderstandings. More importantly, the language of yellow roses is friendship. He wanted to subtly hint to Oliver, we are just friends. The thought made Mason snicker. But he wasn't going to just sit there and wait. His rival had already found his wife's school. How could he sit still? Mason immediately abandoned his tea-sipping father, ran to the large mirror, checked his reflection repeatedly to ensure his already handsome face was perfect, and prepared to rush to the school to completely crush any thought his brother had of winning Oliver back. Meanwhile, I was tangled in a brawl with James. Strictly speaking, I had James pinned to the ground. Although Omegas generally lack physical strength, in a class full of them, I was the heavyweight. The people around us didn't dare break it up. They just ran to get the homeroom teacher. When the teacher arrived, I was sitting on a chair, while James was face down on the floor with my foot on his face. I didn't expect that the teacher, who always preached fairness, would immediately scold me without even asking what happened. Oliver, the Smith family already called off the engagement, and you still haven't learned to control your temper? Have you no self-reflection? Look at you. Is this how an Omega should act? His expression suggested I was the greatest disgrace in the history of education. Do you still think you're that sought-after S-class Omega? Both Smith brothers rejected you. That clearly shows there's something wrong with your character. Look at you now. You can't even compare to James. He might only be an A-class, but he knows his place. He behaves himself and never messes around with online dating. I told you long ago, the most important thing for an Omega is reputation. And now, your reputation in high society is trash. Since you refuse to listen to me, I don't want to keep you here anymore. You're an adult. Go process your withdrawal from the school yourself. The teacher kicked my foot away and helped up James, whose face was bruised and swollen. I'd heard James had a decent match lined up, a family not as prestigious as the Smiths, but they reportedly got along well. In the teacher's eyes, I was clearly a discard. Yet, facing the teacher's reprimand and the threat of expulsion, my expression didn't change. I asked again, "Sir, are you sure you want to expel an S-class Omega because of rumors spread by James?" The teacher frowned, looking impatient. "With your reputation, you think you can still study here? Stop being an eyesore. I don't want to use special measures. It won't look good for anyone." "Oh, you won't use them?" I smiled, pulling out my phone and dialing the Omega Protection Association. "Then I will." This place was different from others. Because Omegas were rare and precious, they were concentrated in alliance-affiliated schools from the moment they presented. These institutions were a blend of protection and education. My school, located on the main star, not only held significant influence but also possessed law enforcement authority. People in uniform arrived quickly. Since they were all Omegas, their attitude was friendly. After a routine round of questioning, their eyes finally landed on me. "Sir, according to everyone's testimony, you beat James up indiscriminately," one officer said. "Can you tell us the reason?" I paused. "Is that what they all said?" "Yes. These are the testimonies provided by your classmates and teacher." The officer handed me the record book. I pursed my lips and turned to look at my classmates. Those faces that once seemed kind and friendly had betrayed me without hesitation. They looked away, guilty, avoiding my gaze, but I had no intention of letting them off the hook. I pointed at the record book and said, "Then I'll sue them too." Chapter 6. The homeroom teacher actually had a point about one thing. An Omega's reputation is everything. It determines their lifelong happiness. When alphas pick a partner, they don't just look at rank and fertility. They care about character and morals too. The higher the status, the higher the standards. So, slandering an Omega is a serious crime, and slandering a high-ranking Omega is even worse. No one wants a stain on their permanent record. But this statement immediately sparked a backlash from the class. "Oliver, you did those things yourself. Are we not allowed to speak the truth? What did James do wrong? You threw the first punch. Don't think we have to let you slide just because you outrank us." I listened quietly, not feeling sad or self-doubting, just annoyed. The teacher stood by, looking smug and mocking, watching me like I was a circus act. I ignored them, took the brooch off my chest, and handed it to the officer in front of everyone. Before I could speak, James jumped in. "Oliver, are you trying to bribe them?" I almost laughed at his logic. Who bribes a cop in broad daylight? "Sorry, my memory isn't great, and I'm afraid of forgetting important things, so I like to record everything," I explained. "Here's the evidence." The classroom went dead silent. James turned beet red but kept arguing. "How can you call it slander? The Smith heir ran away from your wedding, and the second son wanted to call it off before even meeting you. Everyone in high society knows this. Did you think everyone cares about your face? Are we that shallow? You deserve to be kicked out. There are plenty of unmarried Omegas in this class who don't want to be in the same school as someone like you. We don't want our reputations tarnished. However, he didn't dare repeat the part about me being used up and thrown away. That was a lie he had fabricated out of thin air, and it was direct evidence of slander. With law enforcement present, he only dared to shout about things that were public knowledge. But when he met my gaze, James immediately hid behind the teacher. He was terrified after the beating I gave him, muttering quietly, "Do you think you're still that untouchable, top-tier Omega? Who said Oliver was kicked out?" A tall, upright figure suddenly appeared at the classroom door. He was exceptionally good-looking, with charming, slightly upturned peach blossom eyes, features more exquisite than most Omegas. The whole class froze, not just because they rarely saw outsiders, but because Mason was simply dazzling. The only word to describe him was beautiful. No wonder the rumors said marrying into the Smith family was bliss. Waking up to that face every day would make anyone smile in their sleep. The whole class looked at me with jealousy. I lifted my head and stared back at each of them. The room fell instantly silent. James was the first to snap out of Mason's spell. The pain on his face, combined with the jealousy sparked by Mason's arrival, made him physically writhe. "Master Mason, you don't need to cover for him," James said righteously. "We all know Oliver has no virtue. He messes around with AO relationships online. He has 2 boyfriends. James kept rambling, completely missing the flash of secret delight on Mason's face. "You guys think both of those online accounts were his boyfriends?" Mason asked. James was clueless. Of course. Oliver moved on seamlessly. As soon as one alpha left, another one stuck to him immediately. How is that not 2 boyfriends? Mason's ears turned pink. He cleared his throat, his eyelashes trembling as he muttered under his breath. Was I really that obvious back then? Having made his complaint, James looked at me provocatively, trying to smirk despite his bruised lip. He walked up to me and sneered, "Oliver, let's see you be arrogant now. I don't believe someone of Mason's status would tolerate you 2-timing him." I didn't say anything, just looked at him like he was an idiot. Just then, the officer walked over with a notepad. "Mr. Mason, I need your cooperation with a few questions." Mason was in a great mood and dropped his bad temper, answering every question. "What? My brother ran away? That's just him having self-awareness. He doesn't deserve Oliver. Allow me to introduce Oliver, my wife." Mason looked around proudly, like a kid showing off a prize. "Who said I didn't want to marry him? Getting married is awesome. I want to cling to my wife 24/7. Used and thrown away?" Mason blushed, his pale skin turning pink all the way down his neck. "Used? How exactly? When? On his stomach? Kneeling? Lying down? Spread eagle? Bedroom? Bathroom? Balcony? Outdoor hot spring? I'm down for whatever." Mason got more excited and redder the more he spoke. The crowd and myself fell silent. Only James looked at him in disbelief. "You don't mind?" Mason looked confused. "What business is it of yours, you ugly freak, if I'm dating my wife? Get a life." Chapter 7. And just like that, the truth came to light. James, identified as the ringleader, was hauled off to await sentencing. The homeroom teacher had his license revoked for professional misconduct and was blacklisted from ever teaching again. As for the students who jumped on the bandwagon to give false testimony, they were either suspended or expelled depending on the severity of their involvement. And me? I became a celebrity at school dubbed the Omega who really knows how to have a good time. Walking out of campus with Mason, he kept his head on a swivel like a scout in enemy territory, though I wasn't sure what he was guarding against. Suddenly, someone dropped to one knee holding a massive bouquet of 999 yellow roses. I instinctively tried to dodge, but the flowers shifted with me. They were definitely meant for me. I couldn't think of a single friend who would pull a stunt this big. I looked up at Mason, only to find an inexplicable smirk on his face. But that smile vanished a second later. The person holding the flowers looked up and shouted, "Honey, marry me." When he raised his head, he found himself staring directly into Mason's darkened face. Mason immediately stepped in front of me, smiling a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Bro, how can you propose to your sister-in-law?" Elijah froze. He looked at Mason, then at me blocked behind him, his face a mask of confusion. Mason didn't seem to think an explanation was necessary and just kept talking. "Do you have any idea how it felt when you ran off without a word and the engagement fell on my head?" "Felt exactly like this." He paused, afraid I might get angry, and turned to give me a fawning smile. "Not that I'm unhappy with you, wifey. I'm thrilled with this marriage." Then he raised his voice, turning a stern look back to Elijah. "I just despise your behavior. You can't just bail on your wedding day after agreeing to it." What kind of man does that? Elijah tried to explain frantically. No, I only found out that day. Mason didn't listen. He grabbed Elijah and dragged him to the side. They started whispering furiously. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught snippets of Mason hissing, "Begging you, let me have this one. I'll commit suicide if you don't." And it's true love, seriously, I never lie. Elijah looked furious. That's my CP. That's my fiancé. Seeing that reasoning wasn't working, Mason decided to burn the bridge. I don't care. Finders keepers. And then the two of them started brawling. When I recounted the events to William later, he looked positively gleeful. Barbara, on the other hand, was distressed as she applied medicine to her two sons, moving from one to the other. The brothers sat with their backs to each other, clearly still sulking. William stroked his beard and spoke leisurely. Back then, neither of you was satisfied with the daughter-in-law I picked. Now look at you, fighting over him. Embarrassing. I sat silently to the side, playing on my phone, when I felt a burning gaze. I looked up to see Elijah staring at me. His look was complex, part adoration, part unwillingness, part resentment, as if I were the heartbreaker who had left him at the altar 7 or 8 times. The sheer audacity of it almost made me laugh. Just as I was about to speak, I felt another gaze. I turned to find Mason staring at me with those beautiful peach blossom eyes, looking utterly aggrieved. He then turned his head away petulantly. From my angle, I could see what looked like tears glistening in his eyes. I paused, put away my phone, and walked over to him. What's wrong? Mason ignored me. I sat down next to him and cupped his face. Hey, little milk candy, are you mad at me? Mason couldn't avoid me now. His long lashes were damp, the corners of his eyes red. He grumbled in a low voice only the two of us could hear. My brother is back, so just as I thought, you don't want me anymore. His voice was pitiful, filled with a knew-it-all-along accusation. He was so beautiful, a young master who had grown up in the lap of luxury, never knowing a day of hardship. His biggest problem in life was probably having too much allowance money to spend. Yet this proud, willful young man went soft only for me. He only felt insecure because of me. Anyone seeing him like this would have their heart melt. I was no exception. I rubbed his head affectionately. We made a deal. As long as you speak your truth, I won't give up on you. Mason smiled instantly, happily throwing himself into my arms. I didn't notice the provocative glare he shot secretly at Elijah over my shoulder, a look that nearly made Elijah cough up blood. That punchable, manipulative little brother. He was done with him. Chapter 8. Elijah stuck around the house for 2 weeks. After helping sort out the paperwork to switch the names on the marriage license, he spent every single day getting absolutely fed up with his little brother. Finally deciding that out of sight, out of mind was the best policy, he packed up and headed straight back to military school. One night, Mason suddenly texted him, "Bro, my wife hit me." Elijah had always doted on his little brother, and his previous anger had long since faded. He panicked the moment he saw the message. What happened? Where did he hit you? The reply came back instantly. No big deal. He just slapped me and kicked me out of bed. Elijah was instantly furious. How could he? Before he could finish typing, another message popped up. Is it my fault I lasted a little too long? He could have just slept while I kept working. But no, he had to make a scene. But man, that slap felt good. Hee hee. Elijah furrowed his brows. Was his brother an idiot? How was he this whipped? Even so, he shouldn't be getting physical. Mason replied even faster. Bro, you don't get it. If he has the guts to hit me today, he'll have the guts to put his life on the line for me tomorrow. Sticking with him guarantees me a good life. Hee hee. Elijah. He suddenly understood exactly why he lost. If you enjoyed this story, remember to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.